marriage will bring some things out. When you get married and you have to fuse those two worlds, you're sitting up so close on something, it reveals to you like the toxicity you have. I was smothering Shayla. I needed to move to where, and I didn't see it. I just didn't see it. Just like she didn't see growing up in a culture of irresponsible handling money. I didn't see that I was coming up overcompensating for the house that I grew up in. Yeah. And so, yeah, we just got to get to that place where we're understanding how like what we think about money actually matters perhaps more than money itself.
Yeah.
What you're doing.
It definitely, because on either side, you're idolizing money.
On either side. You better teach this thing. Come on. Get that. I hope y'all got that.
Welcome to another episode of Take Back Your Life, Conversations with Shay, where we help women overcome. Don't be confused. I know there's a man sitting here, but we help women overcome toxic thoughts, feelings, situations, and people. I inverted it too.
There you go. It's your show.
By understanding and embracing their true identity in Christ so they can live a fulfilled life and thrive. Today's topic is basically about finances, or the toxic thoughts and toxic feelings that we have about finances and overcoming them. But before we move on into the episode, if you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like, so that you're notified when we drop a new video, which is usually weekly. If you're listening to the podcast, please make sure to follow and share this video, share this podcast with others that you think might gain some insight from it. So I'm sitting here with my husband. I know it's a little different setup because I want to talk about finances. And my husband John pretty much handles all of the finances in our family. He pays all the bills and, keeps track of what's coming in and what's going out, which is a blessing for me because I'm a little irresponsible when it comes to finance.
That's big. That was a big thing to say. That's a big girl thing to say.
I'm a little irresponsible when it comes to finances.
Hope y'all taking notes.
And the toxic feelings that I have about finances, or the toxic feelings that I used to have towards income, was that if I'm working enough, if I'm working and if I'm making the money, this is when I'm single for the most part, then I'm going to spend my money however I want to. That meant pretty much not saving anything. What came in when I was living above my means when I was single. I was, even when we first started dating, I would buy these gourmet meals to cook for him because I thought I was a chef back then. And I would buy these really expensive food items to cook, like halibut, which is, pretty expensive, crab meat. I would make a whole dinner that probably cost more than it would cost if I went out and ordered it from a restaurant that specialized in this food, because I was trying to impress someone who didn't like seafood.
I'm talking like feta cheese, crumble, the capers, little crab, you know what I'm saying?
Not the imitation crab, the real crab. Yeah. And I didn't realize at the time, because we were newly dating, that, he would be happy with a bowl of cereal. He's still happy with a bowl of cereal.
Come on.
And I was okay with living life like that because I figured God would provide in my irresponsibility. Then I meet this guy who's super financially conscious, right? And I mean, when I say super financially conscious, when I'm telling you I'm making him halibut with crab, with a cream crab type whatever topping with asparagus and chocolate molten cake that I
Forgot about the cake.
I wasn't very I'm not a very good baker, so I didn't really execute that well. But I meet someone who, you know, viewed money differently. And when I say differently, I mean like our dates, he was like, when we would hang out at a park, which is a good way to get to know someone. But he would pack lunches when we would hang out. And it would irritate the crap out of me that I would see a bag full of like stuff. And it's like, I'm not, I don't want a peanut butter sandwich. Like, if we're going to hang out, like, I want you to take me somewhere to eat. I remember talking to my brother about it because my brother was still here with us when John and I first met. And we talked about, a lot of things. But I remember telling him, like, dude keeps packing like sandwiches and stuff when we hang out. And my brother's like, tell that guy to take you out to get something to eat. But I mentioned that story because I'm telling you how a financially irresponsible person thinks. My mindset versus a financially responsible person, which is John's mind. He was raised a little differently. So like I'm looking down on someone who had one, a savings account, and two, good credit. But again, mindset is all about how you think. And so we're dating and he's not spending money and I'm trying to spend all my money. And we gotta coexist, right? Like we're dating and then we eventually move into like engagement into marriage. And before marriage was the wedding, right? So most females have like a dream wedding. Mine was an idea of a dream wedding. Mine was a destination wedding, and that didn't happen because some family members wouldn't have been able to make it. And John was more into like let's just do something simple. Mm-hmm. So he came up with a budget that I didn't think was doable. I didn't. But mind you, he's a financially responsible one, and he actually had a higher salary than I had. Like, so he was bringing in more money, and technically, he would have been paying for most of the wedding. So the budget of our wedding was $7,000, which I didn't think we could pull off, but we pulled off. I think we spent $7,000, right?
It was like right on the dot. Like yeah. Whatever it was, we ended up being like right on the dot without having to go over.
Yeah. So something that I didn't think was possible, and again, I'm looking down on, like we were able to pull off with this wedding, which was beautiful. We had tons of people that just really, yeah, it was a little long, our ceremony.
It was one for the ages.
But it turned out really, really good. Yeah. And I'm saying all that to say that most of the time, financially irresponsible people, the way they view money is toxic. So me coming from, I'm the last of, if we talk about my dad's kids, I'm the youngest of 7. If we're talking about my mom's, I'm the youngest of 3. So I'm coming from a family situation where I almost got everything that I wanted, and money didn't mean anything to me because if I asked for it, I got it. Like I was what they call spoiled. And so I took that with me into my young adulthood. So when I worked, it was like my money, I made it. I'm going to spend it the way I want to. And I watched my mom pretty much live paycheck to paycheck. And I'm not going to say my mom splurged a lot on herself. Mm-hmm. Like it was mostly on her kids and then she had grandkids that she, wanted to like, that was her, the way she expressed love. Yeah. Way you express love. I didn't think he expressed love the correct way. My love language is gifts. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich was no jelly, it was peanut butter. It's not a gift to me. Anywho, so I had to take on a whole new mindset when it came to finances when I got married, which was not easy. And I wanted to come to you to talk about this because one is it's an extremely important topic. Like financial security is something that we should all aim for. And two, I know how it feels when we talk about emotions. I know the emotions like that are attached to money, right? And what money means for someone who's financially responsible versus how they feel about it versus how what money feels like for a financially irresponsible person. So we got married and had a whole discussion about how we was budget our money. And I, fought against it tooth and nail when we were first married. And, we've been married 10 years and I'm still like, so it's not easy to shift your perspective or your way of thinking of money, but you can do it. So we got married, we moved into John's apartment and, basement apartment in Philly. If you ever hear any of our stories, we talk about, lived in this basement apartment. I come from living in a life of lap. What is it?
In the lap of luxury.
Lap of luxury. I lived in golf course apartment. Paycheck to paycheck. I was drowning, but I'm living in a place where I didn't have to deal with mice. I didn't even know what. Yeah, city roaches are a tad different than country ones, I guess.
They make them different.
They're a little more bold. They're a little bigger and they're a little bolder. So I'm moving into this place that I'm not used to. And like to me, I'm downgrading. Right. And the purpose was to pay off debt and then eventually build financial security. And the debt that came into the marriage was mine because John was debt free. He took on my debt when we got married. It was like $75,000 worth of debt. So I'm living this carefree life where, I'm just throwing money out the window and I'm not paying on debt, which was mostly student loan debt, but it was still debt. It still like tanked my credit score, which I had no idea what that looked like. And it didn't enable me to do some things that I wanted to do in life. So we make this budget and we set these plans to live life frugally, I'll say, where we spent hardly any money and we lived in this apartment that I didn't want to live in. And
Vista view.
Yeah.
Vista.
Yeah, ain't no vista.
Ain't no vista.
No view.
Ain't no view. And it sure ain't no vista of no views.
It wasn't easy for me because I just wasn't used to the idea of budgeting. I wasn't used to the idea of paying off debt. Like I would just take debt and just have it the rest of my life, or at least do the whole 7-year thing where but student loan debt doesn't disappear. So it's there with you forever. Other debt, like you give it 7 years and you can get it off your credit report. Student loan is like, no. And we're just going to keep adding interest on top of that. And so we set a plan to pay off debt, $75,000, $80,000 worth of debt. I think it was like a 6-year plan. It was a 6-year plan to pay this off, where we allowed ourselves $100 each in free money per month.
Right.
And that was cash. So we weren't using cards for anything. We didn't get anything on credit.
Right.
And when we did spend money, it was cash.
Right. So that was budgeted in. We took out 100 from every paycheck or pay period, and said you're going to get $100, and we get $100. It's be our free money. So just
you do whatever you want.
Whatever you want with that. And then everything else, lock it in.
Went to paying off student loan debt, and we knocked that out. And it was, God's funny. at things. So we had a 6-year plan to pay it off, and I'm thinking I got to be in this apartment for 6.
Mhm.
Now, mind you, we're both working adults.
Mhm.
Like it's not like we're not working when we need to be in this apartment. We could have been somewhere else, but the rent was inexpensive, and it made sense for the plan of action that we set. So we set this plan and we gave it to God. Like, this is what we believe we can do. And God, this is what we would like to happen in 6 years. We would like to be debt free because we didn't want to have any children in while we were living in debt. So it was our declaration to God, like, to hold off. Please don't get us pregnant while we still have this baby of $80,000. And once we pay this off, we can talk about it. I don't know why we thought that we were young. Anyway, God's funny. We paid off the debt in 2 years. Yay.
Yay, God.
Yeah, that definitely was a God thing. So we paid off the debt in December, right? We paid off.
I don't remember the date.
It was like
I should remember.
December or January. And we found out we were pregnant in March.
Yeah.
So God said, you said pay off debt and we have a child. Yeah. Should have been a little more specific. Like, we didn't want it right after we paid off.
Life lesson: do not bargain with God like you think you know what's going on, or if you do, you better be very specific.
Yes, yeah, but our son is like, our bundle. He's awesome, and we don't have time to get into all the awesomeness of our son. But we didn't want to have children and be in debt. We didn't think it was responsible. So that happened, right? So in the middle of me fighting this budgeting and fighting, living where we were living, fighting not like getting new stuff, new furniture, not, buying new wardrobes and things like that, I eventually came to the point where I had to reset how I thought about money. And it was the point where I had to take back my life from being financially irresponsible to being a financially responsible person. And not only that, being a partner to my husband, because we don't need to have fights about finances when we both agree that this is how we're going to do something. Right. So every month that something comes up that we sit down and talk about a budget, doesn't need to be an argument, because it's something I don't want to hear when we pretty much sat down and agreed about it. So I had to change my mindset about how I view money, and I had to change the feelings that I felt about money and the attachment that I had, and the way spending money makes you feel. Like, for financially irresponsible people, spending money makes you feel good. If it's a negative coping mechanism, like if you're having a bad day, you can go out and buy something and make yourself feel better. And
it's a biochemical experience.
It is.
It's like you
like release endorphins, right. Like endorphins.
Pleasure, pleasure, absolutely.
So I had to change the way I thought about money, about finances. So we got on this plan to pay off debt, paid it off in 2 years, had a child, but that's neither here nor there. And we're debt free, right? We're living debt free. We're building our savings accounts, right? And life happens. We have child. We have switching job situations, moving from state to state. But we get down here because John has a job opportunity, and I get to keep my job because it's remote, whatever. But we moved down here. We're able to save money. We'll say that. And we were able to save money pretty quickly because we're both employed adults and we're both responsible. Like the mindset that we had living in that little apartment in Philadelphia when we first got married carried on to us down here 8, 9, 10 years later. Like, we're still living that same life. Like, we're not just going out and big spenders, and like, we're financially conscious of what we do. So we come to the point where we're able to purchase a home. We're financially, we have no debt. we have enough savings to buy a house.
Mhm.
And we think that, this might be forever for a little bit. Like we might be living here for good in South Carolina.
Mhm.
And we can purchase a house. And if we do, move anywhere else, like we could sell the house or rent it out. Like houses are equity. like like and then we can use the house that we purchased. We had other plans. But anyway, we think we're going to buy a house. And we go and run some credit to purchase our house, and we realize that we have like a 0 credit score.
Don't I?
We have no credit score. It's not bad. It's not good. It's nothing because we don't spend anything on credit. And it was a gut check. I don't know if it was. Um, I thought it. I thought it was better than having bad credit.
Mm.
Like
Mm.
so,
Mhm.
like we had like if people ran our reports and it was like you just don't have enough credit there. You don't have enough credit
Right.
history for us to trust you with this amount of money.
Mhm.
So this is where this video comes into play because that was what a year ago.
A year ago.
A
Yeah.
year ago, we decided we wanted to purchase a house and then we found out we had no credit between the two of us. And today, we have really decent credit scores. Like we're excited because, I get American Express, offers almost weekly.
Yeah.
Like I would say that,
Mhm.
like it's like I feel like on top of the world because my credit score is like
Mhm.
somewhere it's like
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah.
And it was a learning experience because we thought we were being financially responsible by not purchasing anything on credit.
Mhm.
We didn't buy anything. Everything was cash.
Right.
We saved money for if it was a big purchase and we bought it with cash. So we had no credit history. And we thought that someone looking at that and seeing like we have
Mhm.
money saved, like look
Right.
at our bank account,
Mhm.
they would say, "Yay, we're glad
Mhm.
that you're able to
Mhm.
save some money, and we see that the income that you're bringing in is substantial enough for you to purchase a home." And we were shut down quickly. But we were shut down, and then we were educated a
Right.
little bit, right?
That's key.
Which helped us build our credit. So we got a secure credit card. John got his own secure credit card because he needed his own line of credit. I got my own secure credit card because I needed my own line of credit. And if you don't know what a secure credit card is, it's pretty much like a prepaid credit card. That's what it is.
Yep.
You can get prepaid credit cards. And you can
And
look, but I would suggest you go through a bank
Mhm.
and get a bank account, and then you get a prepaid card,
Mhm.
secure credit card through the bank because they can monitor your
Activity.
your activity, like, and it's legit, like it's a bank.
Mhm.
It's not like a prepaid card that you went and got at the grocery store. Like you
Right.
literally have a card through
Right.
the bank.
Plus which this is important. If you get it through a bank, not only is it more reputable, but like they may be able to offer you other types of complementary products
Yes.
and really good terms on those products.
Yeah.
Like if you have a relationship with that bank, you might get a really good rate on your checking account,
Mhm.
your savings account, or some other types of things. Or if that bank is the bank where you want to finance your house,
Mhm.
if it's all rolled in,
Yeah.
you're working hand in glove. So
Yeah.
there's some other benefits to doing it that way.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. And um, it was a great experience, and it was a quick experience. And I think it happened pretty quickly for us because we had no credit. So we weren't trying to go from negative to a positive. We were going from 0, which is positive,
Mhm.
is not under the negative line, to like more positive.
Mhm.
So we literally just had to make purchases and pay off the entire purchase each month.
Mhm.
And it happened, I say it happened quickly because 6 months later, when I'm not even thinking about my credit score, I'm just trying to, use it every once in a while, use it like, what is it, 33%? of what you put down.
You want to stay at that level. So whatever, let's just say you open a secure credit card, you save up $500. Let's just say, and you get that credit card in that amount. Well, what you want to do is spend no more month to month than roughly about, let's just say 33% of what you got on that credit card, which would be about 100 and I guess 30 some odd dollars, somewhere in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So spend that every month, and at the end of the pay period, pay that off every single month like clockwork.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that consistently, then what happens in 6 months?
6 months, you go from a 0 credit score to a.
You can be in the 7-month plus club.
Yeah, you go from there ain't no way in HE double hockey sticks that will loan you money for a house,
right,
to please come and borrow money from us for your home at this interest rate.
They beating down the doors, sending you offer letters for opening up credit cards.
Exactly. Yeah. So, it happened really quickly, but it was also, like I said, it was very much a learning experience, because in America, credit's everything. People don't care really how much money you make. I mean, how much you make, it matters, but they don't care about that as much. They don't care about your savings account as much as they care about your credit history and your credit score. And we learned, unfortunately, we learned the hard way, but it was kind of like softly, because I could say we were interested in purchasing a home, but it was a slight interest. It wasn't like, it wasn't like we need to buy a house right now. So when we thought about it, it was like, oh, let's see about buying a house. And then we found out our credit sucked, and we went through the process of building our credit. And now, we're in a position that we can purchase a home. We actually had pretty much a house.
Yeah.
So we were right there with the house. We were pretty much about to go into closing, and then life happened again, and we had to pull back. But God, still shows his favor. Like, we still have, like, if we go to this lender, we won't need to reapply. Right. And it's because, one, we built a good relationship with them, and two, our credit score is like,
it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's up there. So we got knocked down a few notches. If you watched, I think, the first Take Back Your Life video, we talk about us both, losing jobs. And that's why I talk about in the video about toxic work environment. You can go to a job and they can tell you that they no longer need your services.
Yeah. Can I add one though?
Yeah.
I will say this then, is because life can happen, and it can happen on a dime, even though we're still carrying some of the scars of trying to do things the right way, and the door still getting slammed on our face. And, us like having a lot of Joseph experiences where it's like, how did we end up in Potiphar's house? Like, why am I in jail right now? What in the world? I thought that just me being a clean cut, was going to work out. Even though that's the case, right? Even though we're feeling that burden, what's also true is if you just continue to put the right steps in place, like if you're being responsible, you're being a good steward of your time, of your money, and so forth. You're not overspending, you're not splurging, and you're doing that consistently over time. What happens is, even when that door slams, they're not able to take that away from you. The compound effect of you having done all of that results in something that looks like we still walk away with shiny credit, offers still coming in the mail. So even though, like you said, it sucked that door slammed because of the job, and because of that, the door slammed to the house, we still walk away with good name because of our credit. And we still go with, we still evolve with connecting this to the idea of taking back your life. While the burn of having the door slam in my face was like, it still hurt and it still burned, it didn't become toxic to me. Yeah. It didn't become it's just on the people that made the decision that resulted in us being in here. Like, they're going to have to deal with that. Like, that's going to fall on your head. It didn't become something that I'm like carrying with me, and I'm emotionally just like in such a bad way, and I can hardly get over it, and I'm so bitter and raw and all of that stuff. Like that's not where I am, because I've kept putting my foot down and doing it the right way and trusting God and throughout the process. And we just have to arrive at that point.
Yeah, and not only that, the next video, I'm talking about toxic thoughts about unforgiveness, since you brought that up. But because this video is about being financially responsible and taking steps towards financial responsibility, because we were financially responsible, we're not hurried into another decision. Like, we don't have to make a decision in haste, because we did what we had to do to build a nest egg in case something like this happens. Like, you don't want this to happen. You don't want to be, unemployed, or you don't want to be in a situation where you're not bringing money in steadily. But you want to make sure that you're set up to the point where if you do lose your job, or if your business does take a hit a little bit, if you're an entrepreneur, you're able to survive a few months, like, on what you have already saved. And that's the point, and that's the idea of financial security, in which we strive for financial security, but we weren't doing the whole credit side right. So we were stockpiling money, but we weren't working on our credit. But we worked on our credit, right? And then we forgot about it. We forgot that we worked on our credit, and we forgot about, and then what you talked about, a perk for getting a secure credit card through a bank. And so we were surprised this week when we got 2 checks in the mail, and they were our deposits, our initial deposits for our secure credit card. It was like, God's like, here, I'll just give you, I'm gonna make you forget about this, and then I'm just gonna hit you with it. Yeah, I love checks falling out of the mailbox that I don't know that are coming, because as a business person, like, when people are paying you for your services or your products, like you see the money hit the account, or checks coming. So it's not like, it doesn't hit you. It's not a.
Like, but this was supposed to happen.
Yeah, but when you get something that's just dropped in the mailbox, and I'm gonna tell you something, God is funny, because we don't get the mail regularly. Like, we don't get the mail daily. We might get it like once every 2 weeks, unless we're expecting something. And we have, we're signed up for services through the United States Post Office that we know what pieces of mail are coming. But sometimes envelopes come that are pretty vague, and you don't know what the, like, I'll get a picture of that in my email, and it's like, the heck is, what is that? So I'm not running to the mailbox to get this piece of mail. I just happened to go get mail one day, and we got these 2 envelopes in there. One's addressed to John, one's addressed to me. And I open it, and it's a check. Now, at first I thought it was like fake check. You know how car dealers send you those fake, like, here's your $10,000 coupon or whatever. And then I'm reading the document more, and it's in the document says, I'm not going to show you the document. I'm not going to show you it. I might put a picture up, but we got to cross some stuff out because a lot of our personal information is on it. That would be irresponsible to show that. But the first word in the letter is congratulations. And then it goes on to say, we're thrilled to let you know that due to responsible use of your secured credit card, your security deposit has been released. Now, give us these checks last year. They wouldn't have had a huge impact. It would have been like, oh, we got our security deposit back. Great. Give us these checks now, after everything that happened. And it's like, thank you, Jesus. Like, it's like you got the old time song, like, he's an on time God. Yes, he is. So that's how it felt. And it was like pure, like, if I could jump around like my 6-year-old son, I probably would have been. like pure excitement, because now we have freedom to do something that we wanted to do that we didn't think we would be able to do prior to receiving these payments.
If I can add this too, a piece of the whole knowing that you have become more emotionally healthy and more emotionally mature than where you were before in terms of your finances is when you get to the place where you can rejoice in a healthy way and be like, wow, when your only reaction is, God, you did it. And I can see how this is your hand supplying something for us. And you have a mode of gratitude and appreciation to the Lord. You're in a good place. That's a good, he's also, in addition to the financial part of the gift, what you're also being given is an opportunity to recognize that you have grown. And that's an important thing.
And you're not like, I'm not like, let's go figure out how we're going to spend this money. Because it's Christmas time, right? And I'm already going through the emotions of like, what can we get, our son, our son we have Christmas, then we have January birthday for our son. And I'm an emotional person, and
a little bit.
But I'm gonna tell you that I didn't think like, now that these checks came, like let's go splurge on some Christmas presents for him, or it's let's go splurge on a huge birthday party for him, because we're still not there yet. And to not have an emotional attachment to money, whether it's expected or not, for me, is growth. Because I can still look at the check has not been deposited. Now, years ago, my single life, if I get a check unexpectedly, it's getting deposited that day, because I'm spending that money right away. I'm not thinking about saving it or anything. I'm spending it right away. These checks aren't even deposited yet. One, because John does most of that. And two, is not that sense of urgency that I feel that I need to go and burn through the money that was given.
Great
that
point.
we received.
Great point. Matter of fact, I'll just, even for the listener, like if you're watching or listening, like ask yourself, if you're in a position where you got an unexpected gift and you got a little bit of money, ask yourself if it's causing you to feel like, oh, it's filling the void in my heart, right? If it's doing that for you, there's a problem. So like, ask yourself where you are relative to that money. Like that'll tell you whether or not you have an idol that's blocking you from God's best for you, or whether you're on the right path.
Yeah. And I think that's fact. Like, you don't want to make an idol out of money. And me being financially irresponsible in the past, like I made an idol out of money. So that looks like praising the money over thanking God for providing it. Right? So, because that's how I looked at money. And money was my savior. So it's like, as long as I have something coming in, like I don't need God. Now, that's not intentional, but it is fact, and it is truth. I mean, even the way we used to spend, like give money, we almost idolized that, because we had so much to give away. So it became an idol. Like, we can just give this away and not even like have a care in the world until like some stuff dried up, and we're like, okay, God, we need you now. Like, it was almost like we're living on, like, just going through the motions and giving, and like, we don't need God to provide because we got it to give. And God's like, yeah, you kind of need me to provide this to give to you. So you need to be a little more responsible with that. So everything is like a learning experience, and everything in life, like, you have to decide and make decisions on what you're going to let control you, and what becomes toxic. And I talked about like having a certain emotional attachment to money that was toxic. And now I don't.
Confession time. So part of, because you mentioned toxicity earlier, and I didn't want them to not hear some of the part from my end. So like Shayla was sharing earlier about like my being, Sergeant Commando, I want to say a budget Nazi. That's probably not the most appropriate way of saying it, but that came from a place of like brokenness and toxicity in my own life. Right. So growing up, here was what the picture, and I'm gonna say this by way of, pivoting over to the point that Shayla's making right now. In the household I grew up in, I had on one side where, because on one side of my family, they grew up dirt poor. I remember one time my dad explaining that over I think the span of like 2 consecutive school years, he had 2 pairs of pants. That's what they had. His mom, at one point in time, was a maid cleaning up the houses of wealthy white people living in the suburbs. She had pennies to scrape by, but she was all about stewardship. So she kept his stuff clean, right and tight. So everything was the penny pinch culture. It was, you know what I mean, the minuscule thing. And you lived a very, very teeny tiny life and made very, very small financial decisions. Your thought process was like this. Then there was the other side of my family where it was like, yo, we just gonna live it up and Jesus is gonna take care of it. And then here's a part of where that toxicity came into me, because I remember being a young man in the house and hearing it was a matriarchal culture, right? And it's not bashing it. That's how a lot of us came up, particularly in our community and communities of color. But what happened was, I remember hearing like my grandmother, who owned the house, bemoan the fact that like, oh, we got these, and no one's helping me with it. Like, you're not doing it, but you splurging every other week. We got this shopping stuff, and you dress in a certain way to come across to other people, to impress other people, and it was all of that. And I saw what I felt was, growing up, I was the brunt. I took the brunt of your financial irresponsibility. So that you dumped that on me. You dumped on me the guilt trip. You made me feel bad about like, oh, I'm not able to do any more for you. Meanwhile, you haven't taught me anything about financial responsibility.
Yeah.
But you have the expectation on me that somehow I'm supposed to bring something to the table that you haven't even taught me. And I'm a child and I got to figure all of that out. So what happened was, leading up to where Shayla was talking about, and now we living in this ratty basement apartment, I was going through my overcompensation phase. I was saying, the way I want to be the complete opposite. I want to go as far away as I can from that toxic environment that I grew up in, to the point where it was like, yo, I'm going to take control of this whole thing. I'm going to, like, come heck or high water, this is how we're going to get this thing done, because I refused to be what that was. But I didn't realize, marriage will bring some things out. When you get married and you have to fuse those two worlds, you're sitting up so close on something, it reveals to you like the toxicity you have. I was smothering Shayla. I needed to move to where, and I didn't see it. I just didn't see it. Just like she didn't see, growing up in a culture of irresponsible handling money, I didn't see that I was coming up overcompensating for the house that I grew up in. And so, we just got to get to that place where we're understanding how what we think about money actually matters, perhaps more than money itself. And what you're doing with it.
It definitely, because on either side, you're idolizing money.
On either side, you better teach this thing. Come on, get that. I hope y'all got that.
Yeah, so we've come to a compromise with how we spend our money, but it took a little bit. But John's idolizing like not spending money and budgeting, and I'm idolizing like spending money, without a care in the world. Impulsive spending, and neither one of us had God, in the center of that, because that was a sense of security for John, holding on to that money. And money wasn't a sense of security for me. Like, I figured I would just get, because I grew up where we had situations where God would sweep in and do stuff at the last minute, and you wouldn't know like how that happened. So I'm thinking that that's just how life happens. Like, eventually God's going to swoop in and he's going to fix situations. And that's not how God works. God is not a magician. Yes, God can do the swooping and the fixing, but in some areas you're going to have to learn some stuff and take care of things a little differently, because I'm not going to keep rescuing you from
Right.
poor situations that you're putting yourself in.
I'm not gonna keep blessing your mess.
Exactly. Like they tell you in marriages, like one of the one of the main reasons for divorce is financial issues, right? You know, whether it's, you know, underemployed or non-employed someone, or someone, you know, financially abusing the other spouse, or, you know, credit, debt and credit, you know, is a serious problem. And I was thinking, like, that ain't our issue because we done saved money, we paid off debt, and we don't really, uh, that's not something we struggle with until we struggled with it. So
Yeah. So if I can add, I think I would just encourage anyone watching or listening, right? Particularly we're in the holiday season, and the temp you're is advertisements everywhere.
yes,
You're constantly being reminded by what you see on TV, what you know, you just see your neighbors and they got lights on in the house or whatever, and you're just projecting that when you see them, they must be balling. They've got to be, they must be happy. They must have stuff. And that stuff is what's making them happy. And if I don't have that stuff that they have, then I'm not going to be happy either. So you project all of this stuff. And instead of focusing on the main thing, which is like, where are you relative? Do you understand what the scripture says when it says in Psalm 24:1? The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. I just shared this with our son like the other day. We were just talking through this because he was trying to wrap his mind around the fact. I want to say it was because he was reading through the solar system book. Like he's into like astronomy now because they're going through that in science class and stuff like that. He's first grade, right? That whole thing. And he was wrapping his mind around the concept that like God owns the rock on the, you know, on the third moon of Jupiter. Yeah. Right. And he's like, so God, like he owns that. That's his too. Yeah. And at 6, he's forming that. He's framing that. Right. But he understands something at 6 that most people don't understand when they're 36 or 46 or insert your name and age here. And so what I'm saying that is just to encourage you to think more instead of thinking in terms of like putting yourself on the pedestal or in the place where like I am the object of like everything needs to revolve around me, because that's you're going to be idolizing on either side of the equation, either by being too material or by thinking your security is everything. Your financial security is like everything, and how you handle it is like the thing that moves the needle, instead of thinking of it in terms of the earth is the Lord's. Yeah. It doesn't belong to me. We're stewarding it on his behalf and for his glory. And you have to believe, and this is where the faith part kicks in, is we have to trust and believe who God is in his character, that he cares enough about us to give us what we need. Yeah. 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 That's the leap. That's the leap. Get that this holiday season. And that's why I also think that like Christmas is a good time to like rehearse that. Yeah. Because if we're equating God's love to only material stuff, we're missing the big picture. Yeah, we are. And then not only if equating God's love to material things, parents, like if we feel like we are not able to provide for our children, you know, hundreds of gifts on Christmas that they're going to play with one day and then it goes in a toy box for the rest of the year. Right. Like we're burdened with that. Like we need, around this time, we need to show that we love our kid and get them all this stuff. And I'm gonna tell you, our son, the stuff he plays with versus the stuff we buy him, like he brings toys out that I forgot we purchased because he didn't play with it, you know, but one time. Knowing like, I know what my Christmases looked like when I was young. And I know how I felt on my Christmases when I got, you know, all the gifts that I got. Greatest, yeah, latest and the greatest. And I'm oftentimes, burdened with like I'm not able to
do that for my son. Like even in like, because that's the way I felt loved at when I was younger. And but that's not the way our son feels loved. And I don't want, and it starts young. Like if you start your children off young and they understand like the true meaning of Christmas, that they don't, like, me buying you something doesn't mean I love you, and me not buying it doesn't mean that I don't love you. Like they understand like a role as a parent, and you show them love in other ways. Like I know that there may be some of you out there that just don't have it, and it's crushing your spirit that you're not able to like do this grand Christmas for your children. Like, and I know that you're working hard at your job where you're getting paid little, you're getting paid not what you're worth, and you're not, bringing home enough money to cover bills and to pay, for school clothes, and to on top of that pay for this great holiday for your kids. I know that that is a burden for you, and I want you to free yourself from that. That's just not how God, that's not what love is.
Because, and one reason is because if you continue to do that, not only will you continue to foster and cultivate unhealthy thoughts and emotions around money, but you're going to teach your child that love is something that can be bought.
Yes, yes.
And then in the absence of stuff, they are not loved.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the message that you're going to hand down to the next generation if you don't get a handle on this whole money thing.
And to just piggyback off that really quickly, there was a young man, he was, I don't know how old the boy is, 11 or 12, who recently shot his mom. And she lost her life because she wouldn't buy him something. And he felt nothing about the fact that he no longer has a mom. He's more concerned with what he didn't get after she pretty much gave him everything that he ever wanted. And he would get things and want it for a minute, and then like want something else right away. And like in his little warped mind, like his mom didn't love him because she did not buy him that thing. So it wasn't necessary for her to be here. And that is an extreme situation, and it's a horrible situation. Like it's heartbreaking that happened. But it's also very prevalent in many families where you just think that you have to do extreme stuff to show your love, and then next month you might not be able to pay your bills. So just want you to refocus on what's important and then what's not important. And having a roof over your head and food on the table and clothes on your kids' back is more important than providing a Christmas that you think will show how much, measure how much you love your children, because it doesn't measure. If you can do it, great. I'm probably not talking to you. It is nothing wrong with that. But if you are really struggling financially, I don't want you to carry the burden this holiday season that you got to do all this extra stuff on top of pay your bills and make sure your car insurance is paid and make sure you got groceries. So don't carry that burden, with you. But if you want to, inexpensive holiday gift for your friends, my book is for sale.
Let's get it.
He almost stole my life. And the workbook. I think I might run the Black Friday special throughout the Christmas holiday. So it is something that, is life-changing, and it's not something that you would purchase frivolously.
Right. This ain't a purchase. This is an investment.
This is an investment in your life.
Change your life.
Yes. Right. But besides that, we're going to wrap this episode up, unless you have something else that you want to say.
Good.
Celebrate the wins. Celebrate getting your security back, your security deposit back. like we just celebrated, and we just thank the Lord for, because it was unexpected
And right on time.
and right on time. And then also make sure that you have a responsible view of money. If money makes you feel any way, whether positive or negative, then you're idolizing money. So if you need help with getting your budgeting together or anything like that, that's something we can help you with. I mean, we can get you a quick budget, you know, or you're trying to save some money, we can help you. You want to work on your credit without um, paying for services to help your. There are services that I guess are worth you paying for to help your credit score. But I'm telling you that there's a lot of things that you can do that you don't have to pay for. And one of them is getting a secure credit card. And the other thing is paying your utility bills on time. Like that helps build your credit. So that's it for this episode of Take Back Your Life. Conversations with Shay, and today with John, where we help women and men today overcome toxic thoughts, feelings, people, and situations about money. Where you, by understanding and embracing your true identity in Christ, so you can live a fulfilled life and thrive. Please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, all those good things that don't cost you anything. If you don't have anything, you can share this video for free. And you can share the page for free. And I will be eternally grateful. Until next time, we will see you again.